Before we deconstruct the brutal mathematical breakthrough that is currently tearing through the global human resource industry, I have exactly 3 critical questions for you to answer in the comments below. Number 1. Are you, an HR and a leadership team, still burning months of lead time and political capital on traditional employees focus group, completely blind to the fact that you can now simulate those exact employee sentiments algorithmically? Number 2. Do you understand the lethal structural difference between sending an anonymous employee survey and receiving hallucinated averages versus using Semantic Similarity Rating, the SSR, to map unstructured AI text onto mathematically precise workforce distribution? Number 3. When your competitors deploy an army of synthetic employees to test 10,000 policy variations overnight, do you possess the structural agility to abandon your slow, expensive human committees and execute at the speed of the machine? Let me know your answer. For those who are new, I'm Dr. HR. I approach the global labor and capital market not with emotional comforting advice, but as a cold, structural, algorithmic system. I hold a PhD in human resources, a master's from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences, TISS in Mumbai, and a bachelor's in computer engineering. Operating on the ground here in Dubai since 2010, consulting for Tier 1 corporate entities, wealth funds, and apex tech founders across the Middle East and India, I monitor exactly how absolute leverage is generated and how obsolete methodologies destroy enterprise value. The market does not reward you for doing things the traditional way. It rewards absolute, uncompromising speed and mathematical accuracy. The traditional HR focus groups are slow, politically charged process that cost corporation vast amount of time and often yield skewed data, is mathematically obsolete. We are adapting a groundbreaking methodology, originally proven for consumer research, to prove that we can simulate human employee sentiment with terrifying fidelity. The era of waiting 6 weeks for a committee to tell you if your new return to office policy will trigger mass resignation is dead. We are entering the era of synthetic workforce. Before I completely dismantle the illusion of an employee focus group, expose the exact mechanics of semantic similarity ratings applied to HR, and give you the precise architectural blueprint to deploy synthetic employees across your enterprise, hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell. I post daily videos showing you exactly how to navigate the global labor and capital market using cold, hard engineering logic. You do not want to miss these execution protocols. Stop begging for employee feedback. Start simulating the culture. Grab a notebook. It is time to engineer your workforce data. Phase 1. The political bottleneck, the problem with the human focus groups. We must first diagnose the exact debilitating operational trap that HR department falls into every single time they attempt to launch a new initiative. If you are a massive conglomerate rolling out a new compensation structure, a hybrid work policy, or a diversity initiative in the US or the UAE, you do not just guess how people will react. You conduct established employee research. You build a survey, you recruit a panel of 50 to 100 human employees matching your organizational demographic, and you ask them the most consequential question in HR: policy acceptance. How likely are you to support this change? Typically, this is measured on a 5-point Likert scale. This process costs companies immense amount of time and political capital every single year. And here is the brutal structural reality: the data is noisy, biased, and slow. Human focus groups suffer from severe biological and political limitations. They suffer from satisfying clicking through just to get back to work, fear of retaliation, agreeing to please the leadership, and massive negativity or positivity biases. You are expending critical organization energy for blurry, delayed snapshot of workforce sentiment. The corporate dream has always been to replace those risky human panels with AI, to create a synthetic employees, but until now, every time researchers tried to ask an LLM for a Likert rating, the machine failed. When you directly ask an LLM, rate this policy from 1 to 5, the model produces an incredibly narrow, unrealistic distribution. It regrets to the mean. It gives you a safe 3 or 4 every time. it lacks the variance of a real human population. Because of this failure, amateur operators concluded that LLMs were useless for HR sentimental analysis. They assumed the AI was broken. The sovereign architect looked deeper. The AI was not broken, the elicitation method was broken. You are asking the wrong question. Phase 2. The elicitation breakthrough, the semantic similarity rating for HR. The methodologies we are deploying today, based on a massive empirical validation, solves this exact failure point. The core truth is the problem lies not in the use of a LLM themselves, but in a direct requesting Likert scale output. When you force a machine to output a single integer, it oversimplifies the nuances of a human preferences and anxiety. The solution is a mathematical bridge called Semantic Similarity Rating, the SSR. Here is the exact physics of a breakthrough adapted for the human resources. Step 1. Textual elicitation. Instead of asking the synthetic employee, the LLM programmed with specific demographic like tenure, department, and seniority for a number. You ask it for an unconstrained free text response. You ask, what is your reaction to this new policy and why? The LLM responds naturally. I understand the need for more in-office days, but given my current commute and childcare setup, this feels like a significant burden without additional flexibility. Step 2. The embedding space. You take the textual response and you retrieve its mathematical vector in an embedding space. Using models like OpenAI Text Embedding 3 small, you turn the paragraph into a string of numbers that represent its semantic meaning. Step 3. Cosine similarity mapping. We have previously defined the 5 reference statement, one for each point on the 1 to 5 Likert scale for policy acceptance. Reference 1. I'm completely opposed to the new policy and will likely leave the company. Reference 5. I'm highly supportive of this policy and believe it will improve our culture. You then compute the cosine similarity between the LLM's free text embedding and 5 reference embedding. The closer the mathematical angle between the vectors, higher the probability for that specific Likert rating. You're no longer forcing the LLM to pick a singular number, you're mapping its complex, nuanced text onto a probability distribution. Phase 3. The mathematical validation, the human level reliability. Does this highly complex mathematical bridge actually work? The telemetry from the foundational research is absolute terrifying for traditional consultants. When this SSR method was tested against the actual human data in consumer studies, the direct Likert rating asking the AI for a number was a catastrophic failure, achieving a terrible distribution similarity, 0.6 for GPT-4o. The AI just spammed the number 3. But when semantic similarity rating was deployed, the metric exploded. SSR achieved a distribution similarities of 0.88 with GPT-4o. The synthetic distribution almost perfectly mirrored the messy, varied responses of a biological human. Even more importantly, the SSR achieved over 90% of a maximum attainable correlation based on human test, retest reliability. This means that if you ask the synthetic workforce panel to rank 50 different policy variations, they will rank them in almost the exact same order that a human workforce would. You have just mathematically simulated human organizational behavior. And the synthetic employee don't just provide numbers, they provide rich, detailed, qualitative feedback. Human respondents on engagement surveys often give lazy, generic feedback out of fear. The LLM provides deep, personal-driven rationale. They explain why the policy feels unfair or why the communication strategy is flawed. You get the statistical precision of a massive survey combined with the deep qualitative insight of a protected one-on-one exit interview, all generated in milliseconds. Phase 4. The demographic mirror simulating the org chart. The true power of a synthetic workforce is not just in predicting general acceptance, it is in demographic targeting. When LLMs are prompted with specific demographic markers such as age, department, and income level, the synthetic respondent mirrors the biases of a human data. For example, if human employees with severe budgetary constraint react negatively to a change in benefit, synthetic employees, when prompted with low-income personas, perfectly replicate this drop in support. However, there is a structural warning here. The demographic simulation may be less accurate for a highly localized, nuanced corporate microculture, and why isn't it in the LLM's training data? The sovereign architect understands this limitation. You do not treat the synthetic panel as a flawless mirror of every single employee's specific grievance. You use it as a hyper-fast, low-risk mitigation and screening tool. Phase 5. The strategic execution deploying the synthetic swarm. We have diagnosed the bottleneck of a human focus group, mapped the physics of semantic similarity rating, validated the high correlation potential, and audited the demographic mirroring. How do you weaponize this breakthrough to dominate your HR strategy? You must deploy the synthetic swarm strategy. Step 1. Terminate the early stage human committee. You must aggressively reduce your reliance on early stage human focus groups for policy design. If your HR leadership team drafts 5 different compensation models, you do not spend 6 months and immense political capital testing them on executive and employee committee. It is a catastrophic waste of velocity. Step 2. Deploy the SSR pipeline. You build a localized semantic similarity rating pipeline. You do not need to train a new model from scratch. This is a zero-shot elicitation. You use standard frontier models like GPT-4o or Gemini 3, Flash. You prompt 1,000 synthetic personas matching your exact organizational chart. Example, impersonate a mid-level engineer in Bangalore office with 4 years of tenure. You show them your policy concept. You elicit free text responses. Run the embedding. Calculate the cosine similarity like your Likert anchors for a supportive resistance and generate the distribution. Step 3. The arbitrage of velocity. You have just tested complex policy change on a simulated workforce of 1,000 in 45 minutes. You identify the specific policy variations that triggered the least resistance and the highest quantitative alignment from the synthetic swarm. Now you deploy the human panel or the leadership review. You reserve the slow, expensive biological humans exclusively for the final validation of the highest probability, lowest friction policies. You have compressed a 6 months of HR initiative cycle into a single afternoon. You have achieved the arbitrage of velocity. While your competitors are waiting for external consultant to send them a PowerPoint report on employee sentiment, you have already simulated 1,000 variations, selected the optimal structures, and initiated the rollout. You outrun the organizational resistance. Phase 6. The sovereign HR architect. Look closely at how your HR department makes decisions today. Are you relying on gut feeling and executive assumptions? Are you waiting months for engagement surveys to tell you what employees think they want? You are operating in the past. The methodology of the SSR proves that the large language models are not just text generators when engineered correctly. They are highly accurate, scalable simulators of human organizational behavior and sentiment. The limitations of the past, skewed distributions, safe middle answers, regression to the mean, were not the failure of the AI, they were the failures of a human prompting. When you shift from direct elicitation to textual elicitation and semantic mapping, you unlock the machine's true capacity for strategic HR. You replace the politically fraught focus groups with a Python script. Stop waiting for employees to tell you how they will react. Synthesize their sentiment. Deploy the SSR pipeline. Accelerate your policy iteration cycle and force the global market to bow to your unautomatable speed of a sovereign HR architect. Process the data, execute the strategy, and I will see you at the